So good afternoon, friends. Today I'll be talking about the decision making. But before talking about the decision making, let me complete the topic which we left yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about environmental analysis. When I'm saying yesterday means our last class. By chance, this last class happened to be yesterday only. So in the last class, we talked about environmental analysis and we were discussing about techniques of environmental analysis. Friends, just let me recapitulate what we discussed in the previous class for 3-4 minutes, and then I'll come to the techniques part. I said, since organization operates in an environment, organization is an open and adaptive system. It means it take inputs from the environment and give back to the environment in terms of output. When I'm saying output means whatever it processes, it enhances the utility of the input which it takes and it gives back to the environment. So an effective management has to consider all the environmental factors which are there in the economy, which are there in the country, and see how they can take advantage of these environmental factors, or how best organization can adapt itself. When I'm using the word adapt means how best organization can use the environmental factors so that the overall goal of the organization is being optimized. For this very purpose, the different environmental factors which I'm just referring, which were discussed yesterday in length, and even today also I'll be referring it again and again. Economic factors, political factors, social factors, legal factors, right? Government policies, socio-cultural factors. There are different factors which we discussed in length, and even today I'll be again repeating it, right? So these are the factors which influence environment. And how you analyze these, what are the techniques of analyzing the environment? We talked about two different techniques. One is SWOT analysis, SWOT analysis, that is SWOT analysis, and the other was Taos analysis. SWOT analysis, if you recollect, was strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. That what are the strengths of the company, what are the weaknesses of the company, of your organization. When I'm using the word company, means it's your own organization. What are the opportunities that are there in your environment, and what are the threats that they are in the environment. So you analyze all these 4 factors, and on the base of that, you design your policies, you design the good management, effective management, design its policies, keeping in mind these 4 things. And in the Taos analysis, things are more or less same. The only thing is, Taos said that SWOT analysis does not talk about interlinkage, how these factors are interlinked with each other, and SWOT analysis first talks about the strength and the weaknesses of its own organizations, your internal strength and weaknesses, and then talks about your external factors, opportunities and threat in the environment. On the other end, Taos analysis is just opposite of it. That is, first you analyze the outside environmental factors, right? As the word says, Taos, it is just opposite of, if you spell it in an opposite direction, you will get the SWOT, right? So Taos analysis says what are the threats in the environment, what are the opportunities, and now keeping in mind the threats and opportunities, you consider the internal strength and weakness and make the policies accordingly. On a very similar note, today I'll be talking about your third technique of this, which you call it Etop analysis, right? Etop analysis, what does it mean by Etop analysis? So now I'll be talking about this Etop analysis. Etop analysis means environment threat opportunities profile analysis. The environmental factors are quite complex, and it may be difficult for the strategy managers to classify them into neat categories, to interpret them as opportunities and threat. Means it's difficult for the managers to analyze them and see the interlinkage. What we do in the Etop analysis is, before discussing in detail, let me tell you first the crux part of it. The different factors, environmental factors, which are referred in the beginning of my lecture, right? All these are being written separately, means each of these factors are being noted, and what impact these factors will make on the organization, whether this factor is favorable, right? We'll put a arrow on the plus side, that is upside. If that factor makes negligible impact, no impact, then we put a arrow on the horizontal side, that is we put a horizontal arrow, and if it makes a negative impact, we push the arrow on the downside. So each of the factor and what impact each factor will make. When I'm saying factor again and again, all these economic, social, political, legal, all these factors which were discussed in length yesterday. So ETOP is a technique to structure the environment for fundamental business analysis. It was developed by Gule. It is the primary, it is mainly related with analysis of और भी नहीं आ रहा है यार, just wait, नहीं हो रहा, देख just नहीं हो रहा,
क्यों नहीं हो रहा? यहाँ पर क्लिक करो,
यहाँ पर रखे,
अब करो.
Yes please. So environmental threat and opportunity profile is preferred as ETOP profile. It identifies the relevant environmental factors. Such factors might be general environmental factors and task environmental factors. Thereafter, it is necessary to identify their nature. Some factors are positive to the organization where others are negative. Means when you note down all these factors, that which factor is positive for the organization, for the company, and which factor is negative for the organization. Therefore, it is necessary to find out their impact to the organization. Positive, neutral, negative sign in ETOP denotes the relevant environment factors, right? So now let's see. This is basically the ETOP analysis of a bicycle company. This example I have taken from your very popular textbook of management, that is C.B. Gupta. I have taken this example from there, right? Please see that there are different environmental sectors: economic, political, socio-cultural, market, technological, international, suppliers. All these factors we have already discussed. Then for a bicycle industry, as the economy, means in the given economy where your business is operating, a bicycle company is operating, what influence this, each of this factor will influence, to what extent, or what will be the impact of each of this factor will be made on the company. This is being seen. Say for example, economic. Now, except for this year, because of this pandemic, when the income is not growing, India's GDP has been growing for a reasonable good rate. India's per capita income is increasing. So is the purchasing power of the people. Monetary policy is also liberal. Banks' rate of interest are quite low, right? So it is banks are giving loan at a very low rate to the industry, to the consumers, if you want to buy things, right? Means what I'm saying is economic conditions are favorable. So how it is going to make an impact on the bicycle industry or bicycle company? So it will increase influence among consumer customers, urban customers, high export potential. See, when economy is growing, GDP is increasing, per capita income is increasing, rural income is increasing. In India, the rural income, even in this pandemic time, it is a great influence on the urban income, but the rural income, because of the good agri production, the rural income has gone up. So what will be the influence? It will increase affluence, so it will have a positive impact. How the political factors will make an impact on a cycle company? See, political factors, because cycle being a mass consumption item, so political stability or instability is not going to make a much significant impact on the bicycle industry or the bicycle company. So I'll say negative means it is neutral. no impact on of the political factors, socio-culture factors, right? See, as more and more consumers are becoming environment friendly, even in urban India, if you have to go to a small nearby shops instead of going by car because the parking has become a problem, people prefer or people should prefer, and more people are resorting to the sports cycles, even in urban India, not to talk of the rural part of this country, right? So as the preference for the environment, people are becoming more environment friendly, and because of the what do you call, more and more sports bicycle are coming, so people are thinking of that, even it is fashionable to drive a sports bicycle, so it is going to have a positive impact. So consumer preference for fashionable and easy to ride sports cycle, it is going to have a positive impact on the cycle company, on the bicycle company. Market, since growth rate in the industry is as high as 30%, so certainly this market is going to market factors will have a positive impact on the company. Technological upgradation of industry is in progress. Import of machinery is simple and easy, right? See, uh, as the technology is upgrading, more and more companies are adopting new technology which has taken place, new technology that is coming up in the bicycle companies. Now no longer you have to pedal those with pressure, right? Even there are machines that are there in the bicycle, and that machine runs the bicycle, right? So technological upgradation is also helping the industry. International, see, although there is a potential threat from China, so this potential threat, because Chinese bicycles are comparatively cheaper as compared to the Indian bicycle. So this potential threat, international import is being allowed at a liberal rate, suppose. So it is going to have a negative impact on the bicycle company. So what are you seeing? What is the impact of the international factors? It is going to have a negative impact. Suppliers, ancillary companies, right? Are easily giving supplying air spare parts, easy availability of imported raw material. This factor is going to have a positive impact on the industry. So what you see is, what we have done in the Etop analysis, what is this technique of analyzing the environment is that different factors which affect the company, they are being shown separately, means they are being compartmentalized, they are being sector classification is being done, and it is being analyzed that how each of this factor is going to impact the industry. So that what is the idea? Idea is so that management can make right policies keeping in mind these environmental factors. So advantage, friends, because of the scarcity of time, I'm not talking of these advantages and disadvantages, right? So now I'm coming to another technique that is called Pester analysis. See, all these techniques, whether it is SWOT analysis, whether it is Taos analysis, whether the any of the technique which you are talking of, right? All these techniques talks about the environmental factors. The only difference is method of saying the things is different. Some people are talking in one direction, the other people are talking in some other way, but things are more or less same. That what we do in these techniques are that we analyze the different environmental factors and how these environmental factors are going to impact the company or the industry. It is being observed, it is being seen by the management, and a job of a good management is that you analyze these factors properly and take advantage of these favorable or the unfavorable factors. Unfavorable economies, try to change these unfavorable factors into favorable factors, right? Favorable factors means into the favor of the company. You design your policies so that whatever your unfavorable factors are, you cannot avoid it. But what you can do is, by good planning, you can prepare your organization to I would say, fight or to see to it that these unfavorable factors, the negative impact of these unfavorable factors is being minimized, right? That is a basic analysis. So in the last technique which I'm talking about this, because two techniques I've already discussed, two, three techniques I discussed in the previous class. So in this class, the last technique which I'll be talking about, this environmental analysis technique, is Pester analysis, right? So Pester analysis has its origin in the pest analysis, which involves identifying the political, as you're seeing P for political, E for economic, S for social culture, and T for technological, right? So this is political, economic, socio-cultural, and technological influences on an organization in the past and how they might do so in the future. That is, these four factors they have talked about, specifically Pester Analysis talks about these four factors: political, economic, social, cultural, and technological. How these factors have affected the company or the industry in the past and how they are going to do it in the future, so that we can prepare ourselves. So the Pester Analysis used to provide a context for the organization's individual's role in the relation to the external environment, macro and mega environment. This is about your Pester Analysis, right? Most of the things I have already discussed with you. So quickly, I'll brush up that Pester Analysis talks about these different factors, and you see that how these factors are going to make an impact in to the company. Political means current legislation, future legislation, all right, regulatory bodies and processes, government policies, government terms and changes. When I'm saying term means whether the government is stable, what is the term of the government, 5 years. See, like you might have observed over a period of time when there is a last year of the election, right? So industries do not make very heavy investment in that period. The reason being that industries think that if there is a change in the government, right, it is going to make an impact on the government policies. So it might affect their business, right? So what is the term? If there is a stable government, the government's policies are stable. Certainly, government policies are favorable to the business. They are business-friendly policies. It is going to make a positive impact on the business, and business should take advantage of these policy and regulatory framework and current and the future legislation. So recently the government of India has made changes in the labor laws. See, industry in India over a period of time has always been saying that labor laws are not very favorable for the industry. So recently the government has changed these labor laws, slightly changed the labor laws. It is going to make a positive impact. So these political factors we have to consider. Social factors, I'm not discussing in that because yesterday also we referred these. Lifestyle changes, demographic means population, size of the population, age group, education wise, rural urban divide, these are all called demographic factors. Consumers attitudes and opinions, right? Brand, competitive technology, image. I mean, if you have a brand loyalty, there are consumers in the world, or there are certain economies in the world where people are more and more brand conscious, right? So in those economies, in those countries, when more and more branded products are being sold, unbranded, it is difficult for the companies to sell unbranded. So competitive strength, image, consumers buying pattern, whether they prefer to buy from near their home or whether to go to the shopping complexes, malls and all those, right? So they buy, or whether they buy in bulk or they buy in small quantities. This buying pattern of the consumer, ethnic and religious factors. So these are all social factors. Legal factors means international law, employment law, competition laws, health and safety laws, regional legislation law. See, normally you might have heard many times that we say Indian laws are very stringent, right? Indian tax law is very cumbersome. Indian what do you call indirect taxation system is very cumbersome. So because of this, to facilitate business, to make the tax laws easy, Government of India has introduced GST, right? So one tax, one nation, you might have heard this slogan. So these factors makes a positive impact on the business. So as the laws changes, as the things changes, legal situation changes, it is certainly what impact these changes is going to make in business. This we must analyze. Economic factors, economic situation and trends, taxation to the products, market and trade cycles, specific industry factors, customers, interest and exchange rates. These are means why I'm talking these factors. These factors makes direct impact. Like I was just referring to that interest and exchange interest. When the interest rate is low, never in the India in in the recent past memories I have heard as low rate of interest as it is today in India, right? um, why the stock market is booming. The stock market is booming because in the banks, your rate of interest is hardly 4%, 5% on FDs, 5% on FDs. On saving bank, it is only 3%, right? Banks are lending to the businessman at a very cheap rate of interest. So since the rate of interest is benign, it is always a good situation for the business, right? So when I'm talking of economic factors, again, GDP, per capita income, I mean, monetary policy, fiscal policies, right? All this comes under the trade cycle. Trade cycle means every business moves in a cycle, ups and downs. Whether the industry or the economy is in the upper cycle means upward movement, or the downward cycle. All these makes an impact on the business. Technological factors means replacement of the technology, technical solutions, maturity of techniques, manufacturing maturity and capacity, innovation potential, technical essence, licensing patents, all these are technological factors. And lastly, environmental factors. Yeah, means more in the country, rather I would say throughout the world, people are becoming more and more environment conscious. Even in India also, the environment laws are very stringent, right? So how the environment, these change in the environment is making an impact on the business or the industry, right? So environmental impact, environmental legislation, energy consumption, waste disposal, all these factors are important for analyze that an organization and management must analyze these factors and see to it how these factors are going to impact the business. So this is basically the environmental analysis techniques. So in this pestle matrix techniques, right? Basically, we have what we have done is we have outlined here the different factors and what are these different factors and how these factors are going to impact. This is the job of the management to see that how these factors are influencing the organization and how we can make good use of these changes that is taking place in the environment. So this is about, friends, about your analyzing the environmental techniques. So basically, I have talked about 4 techniques here, and there are many other techniques which I'm not discussing, right? So these are the different techniques. And all, if you refer to all these things, if you recollect my previous lecture, the last part of my previous lecture, and even at today also, basically what we are doing is the different environmental factors, which you can see on your screen: political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental, how these factors uh, makes the impact on the business. This you have to analyze, and these are the different techniques. So friends, now we are ending this chapter on the analyzing the environment technique, and within the planning, now I'm coming to the another chapter of your planning unit, that is decision making. Friends, all of us in our daily life, at every moment of your life, you take one decision or the other, whether it is business, whether it is individuals, whether the groups. Every moment you are involved in the decision making process. What is decision making? As a layman, I will say decision making means when you are confronted with various possibilities of achieving something, of achieving a goal, you have to decide that out of these various possibilities, which one suits you, which one is good for you, which one is best for you. That is what decision making is. I'll talk, I'll be talking this in detail, but I've just told you the broad meaning of the decision making. I'm repeating what I said. Means when you are confronted with various alternates, and out of the various alternates, you have to select one of the alternate. That is what decision making is, right? You want to achieve something, you want to get something, you want to uh, get in go. You have a goal, and for achieving that goal, there are various options before you. Out of those various options, you have to select one. That is what decision making is all about, right? So decision making is a cognitive process that results in the selection of a course of action among several alternative scenarios. I've just talked about this. Decision making is a daily activity for any human being. When it comes to business organization, decision making is a habit and a process as well. Habit means it is on a regular basis. Every moment you take decisions. And as a process means there are certain steps, there are certain ways by which you take decision in the business. That's why we say business decision making is a process in the business. I'll be talking about this process is. So effective and successful decision results in profit, while unsuccessful one causes losses. Right? So therefore, good decision making is the most critical process of organization. If you see the history of any company, all those companies which have taken right decision at the right point of time, they are successful companies. They grow at a faster rate. Those companies which have not taken the right decision, they have faltered in decision making process, that is not a, that company, it is difficult for that company to grow, that is difficult for that company to survive. See, the quality of the management, I would say, all depends on how good decisions you take. I mean, what is the difference between good management and the bad management? I'll say the difference between the good management and the bad management is that good management takes right decision at the right time, and the bad management takes wrong decision at a particular point of time. That is what wrong management is, or the bad management is, right? So, what is decision making? Decisions are taken to support organizations' growth. The whole fabric of management, its day-to-day operations, is rightly built on management decisions. Uh, as per the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, it is the process of deciding about something important. Means there is something important that you decide, especially in a group of people or in an organization. See, as I said, every individual at all point of time takes decision. There are certain things which are in your subconscious mind that you do on a very routine basis, every moment of life, you do that thing. So especially you don't devote time on it and thinking on it, right? Because that is already your mind is framed for that. So you take the moment that point comes to you, you take decision on that. But there are certain things which you're doing for the first time, or there are certain things which has a going to make an impact, long-term impact on your life, on your career. For that, you will take a lot of time because you will try, you will exhaust all your energies and you will exhaust all your processes to see to it that what is right for you. I'll be talking of this, right? So it is a process of deciding about something important, especially in a group of people or in an organization. And this definition, which I'm going to say, this is a very important definition. This is considered the very effective definition of decision making. Decision making involves selection of the course of action from among two or more possible alternatives in order to arrive at a solution for a given problem. Friends, this is very important. That decision making involves selection of actions. I said there are various options. When I started the discussion on this decision making, I said what decision making is. Decision making is that whenever you have different options, right? You selecting the best option or selecting the one of these options is what decision making is. So when there are two, when there is only one alternative, what is decision making? You have no choice but to do that. But when you have various options, at this moment of time, you are attending this class on management, right? Had you not been attending the class, you would have been doing something else, right? You would have been, say, watching TV, you would have been studying some other subject, or there were various options before you, but you decide to attend this class, right? So this decision, this is the decision which you have taken. This is a conscious decision which you think that this class will be useful for you. This will help you in understanding the topic of the decision making and the topic of the environmental analysis technique, right? So you have decided to devote your time on this very class. So this is nothing but the decision making, right? So in order to arrive a solution, you choose one option. That is what decision making is, right? So I'm not talking of this nature of decision making, because that will take on a lot of time. But very quickly, I'm just pointing out the important point. It is an ongoing activity. Ongoing activity means it is a continuous process. It keep you, every management, every individual keeps on taking it. It requires solid scientific knowledge coupled with skills and experience in addition to mental maturity. For taking decision, you require a scientific knowledge. Apart from your mental maturity means you use your experience, you use your skill in order to take good decision, right? And good decision depends on the knowledge which you have, the facts, the information which you have, right? So in right information is very important for good decision making, right? So decision making is a process of seeking a goal. Means for you, I want to achieve a goal. I said you want to get good marks. This is your goal. That in the BCom or second year, you want in this third semester, you want to get a good mark. This is your goal. In order to achieve this goal, yeah, I mean, how best you want to utilize your time, right? So you have decided that you will attend this class. So your goal is to get good marks. In order to get a good marks, you're spending your time on classes, on your study, right? So this is the decision which you have taken. This is a conscious decision. It is a continuous and dynamic. Continuous, I've already ongoing activity or continuous and dynamic. Dynamic is changing. When I say dynamic, dynamic means it keeps on changing. Supposing some environmental factors changes, so your decision will change because the situation which was there earlier prevailing, it is no longer prevailing now. So you will have to change your decision. So that's why we say continuous and dynamic, right? And it is a time consuming. Time consuming means you take conscious decisions. So conscious decisions are always time consuming because you have to weigh, you have to uh, find the merits and demerits of each of the options which are available to you. And out of those different options, you select the best one. That's why we say it's a time consuming. So in an organization context, let me talk about what is this decision making in an organizational context. In an organizational context, decision making needs the right kind of information, the complete information and ability to synthesize. Synthesize means you're able to gather all the information, ability to synthesize and make sense of the information. Means decision making need different type of informations. Again, I'll be talking of this information as we'll progress on this topic, you will understand. Because, see, like say, let me start with an example so that you can understand it properly. Suppose you have 1 lakh rupees with you and you want to invest it. So, for investing 1 lakh rupees, what are the different options before you, right? You have to weigh them. So, you must know what are the different options. If you talk to an less literate person, if you talk to a person who is not that much not much knowledgeable or uneducated, he will say, in order to have my money safe, I'll deposit in the bank, right? Because that person knows only about the bank, and bank these days is giving only 3% interest on saving and 5% interest on the bank FDs. Because this is the only information that person has, right? So either he will or she will deposit the money in the bank, or the other information which he has is post office, or the person will deposit the money in the post office. But you as a person who is living in the cities, you are living in the big cities, you have a lot of informations, and the information means you can invest in the bank, you can invest in the post office, you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in the commodities, right? You can invest in the real estate, right? There are so many options before you. You can invest in the bonds, right? You can invest in the mutual funds. So there are, what is this? These are informations. And informations, you will more and more information. It is a time consuming. You will gather all these informations, that what are the investment options which you have. And keeping in mind your objective, keeping in mind your risk profile, you will take that decision, right? So each of these different options which you have, each of these options have their different merits and demerits. So you must gather the information, the merits and demerits of each of these investment. Like say if I talk of this example only, because this will help you in understanding the whole decision making process. I have talked about 6-7 options. Let me talk of a bigger amount, say 10 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees. 10 lakh rupees which you have, that first information you will gather that what are the different options before you for investing for investing 10 lakh rupees. What is your goal? Your goal is to get maximum return out of your investment. And your money should also be safe, right? So on the basis of safety and on the basis of the return, the objects which you have, you will analyze all these different options which I just referred to. You will analyze the merits and demerits, means choosing the various options, weighing these options, right? Weighing these options means you will see what are the merits and demerits of each of these options. Like, to just name a few. If I invest in the bank investment is the most safe investment, right? In India, fortunately, banks have never defaulted. Even if some banks have defaulted, the government of India has come to the rescue of the investors, right? So we presume the banks in India, especially the scheduled commercial banks, are quite safe in India. But the return which you get is very low, 3%. Same is the case almost with the post office. In the banks, you can withdraw the money as many number of times if you deposit the money in your saving bank as you like. But if you deposit the money in the post office, you may not be able to withdraw the money as many number of times as you like. Money is safe in the post office, in Indian post office, right? But the rate of interest is slightly higher than the post office, but sorry, bank. But the withdrawal facility is not that much easy. It is difficult to issue the checks, transfer the money as compared to the banks. If you invest money in the stock market, right? Stock market gives very high rate of return, but the risk is also very high. So you have to find out which is the optimum combination for you, right? So risk is high, but so is the return. If you invest in the bonds, right? Whether it is a government bond or is a private bonds, means debentures, you can say. In India, for government sectors, when the government issues, we call it bonds. When the companies issue, we call it debentures. So debentures gives you a fixed rate of interest, but they will not give as high a rate of interest, or as high a return as the stock market gives, right? So you have to weigh this. These are you can invest in the gold. Gold is considered to be a safe investment, but in the past there has been a period in which the gold has also fallen. You can invest in the real estate, but in the real estate, over a period of time, in a long period of time, it gives good return. But the liquidity problem, see, first of all, in a city like Delhi, with 10 lakh rupees, it is difficult to find a real estate, right? Secondly, even if you find it, when you go to dispose it off, I mean, this has a cost, broker cost, stamp duty cost, and so on and so forth. And it is not easy. It is not considered a very liquid asset. The point I'm making is, when you are talking of decision making, that what I'm doing, what is my goal? My goal is to invest my money and have good return, optimum return. For getting this optimum return, I have various options, right? So all these options are being analyzed. What we are doing, I'm analyzing. When I'm saying analyzing the options, all these options which I've just talked about, we'll see the merits and demerits of each of these options. And by conscious analyzing of these options, I'll choose the best one which suits my requirement. This is what decision making is all about, right? So in an organizational context, decision making needs the right kind of information. Right kind of information means that which helps the management in taking good decision. The complete information and ability to synthesize and make sense of the information. Even with reliable and accurate information, the decision maker ought to have good problem solving skills and astute decision making abilities to arrive at sound judgment regarding the everyday's problems and issues. Decision maker ought to have legitimacy and authority of people who he or she is deciding upon. In other words, A good decision maker succeed only when their decisions are honored, followed by the people or group that the decision impacts. Right. So now I'm not talking of this decision relevance of the decision making. Means it has a great impact on the. I'm directly coming to this process. I've already explained just quickly, right? So decision making process is like a. Let me talk. These steps: identification of the purpose. I'm coming to the process of decision making. That this process is identification of the purpose of the decision. As the example which I gave of your investment of 10 lakh rupees, what is the purpose? Purpose is to invest and get optimum return, best possible return out of an investment. So what exactly is the problem? Why the problem should be solved? When your problem is to invest the money, and why the problem should be there? So that you can get good return of this investment. Who are the affected parties of the problem? Does the problem have a deadline or a specific timeline? Means that what you have to take the decision within a period, right? And who are the affected parties of the problem? In the process of step number 2, information gathering. I said you find out which are the investment opportunities before you. So what you're doing is you're gathering information. You're gathering information that these are the various options while making investment decision. That investment in banks means deposit in the bank, deposit in the post office, buying bonds, debentures, investment in gold, investment in real estate, investment in art also these days, or the investment in the stock market. So means when I'm saying gold means I'm talking of commodities, because there are a very large section of the society which do invest in the commodities also. So this is what information gathering is, right? You prepare a step that developing the alternate solutions, right? So after identifying and analyzing the problem, different probable solutions have to be developed, which is known as developing the alternate solutions. These are alternate solutions of investment. Past experience, expert opinion discussion, etc. can be helpful to develop the alternatives, right? Suppose a person who has lost heavily in the stock market, he will say, no, this is not the good option. So on the basis of your past experience, you will all the way outrightly reject this, right? But I'm not coming to at this point, I'm not coming to the rejection stage. I'm saying developing the alternate solutions, right? So alternate solutions, you think in terms of your past experience, you talk to the different people who are related in this field, right? So experts' opinion, evaluating the best alternatives. This is very important, that out of the various options which you have, you evaluate the best one. So after developing the alternative solution, evaluation of best alternative is done. It is determined that which alternative has how much advantage and disadvantage. Means that is on the basis of advantage and disadvantage of each of the options which you have, you will evaluate the best alternate which suits your requirement. So selection the best alternative. This I've always spoken about. So after evaluating alternatives, the best alternative is to be selected from various alternatives. After developing alternatives, the manager should test each of them by imagining things that he has already put in effect. He should try to foresee the desirable consequences of adopting each alternative. It is done for the best selection. Therefore, it is very important. Means what will be the consequences of each of the alternates? You must think of it. You must deliberate on it, right? You must ponder upon it, and then you choose the best alternative. And then not only choosing the best alternative is required, but you implement it, right? So implement in the right perspective, right? Right perspective means the way you have think that this decision, this alternate has to be implemented in this manner, in the same manner you implement it. And lastly, right, review of implementation. See, I mean, it's not that once you decide, it is always decided forever. If situation changes, if circumstances changes, you may have to rethink about your decision, right? So review in the sense that whether the decision is making the right impact on the organization or not. If it is not making the right impact on the goal for which we have taken the decision, it has to be rescheduled, it has to be rethink, and we have to take a fresh decision. So in the last step of decision making process, when the implementation of the best alternative is reviewed, the process of decision making is finished. The result of implementation should be monitored. Here I am talking of, it is very important to be monitored and evaluated, through which effectiveness can be measured. Because if it is not giving the desired result, you will have to rethink it. So this is there are 7 steps of decision making process. Now, after talking of this 7 steps of the decision making process, I'm coming to the very important part from examination point of view. I don't mean that this discussion which I've made on the decision making is not important. What I've talked about so far is what is decision making and what is the process of decision making. So after talking of what is decision making, the process of decision making, now I'm coming to the this part of the decision making, that is models of decision making. And friends, many times question is being asked from this models of decision making. There are 2 models which I'm going to discuss with you, and both these models are very important. And in the exams, quite often the question is being asked. If the question is being asked from the decision making topic, the question is being asked from this also, right? So this is also important. I'm not saying these others are important, but this is also very important part from examination point of view also. So there are 2 primary models or theories for decision making: the rational model and the bounded rationality model. So these are the 2 models. One is called the rational model and the other is called bounded rationality model. In the former, decision maker attempts to optimize the decision by selecting the best possible alternate, right? I'll be discussing it in detail. In the later, rationality of individual is limited by the information they have, cognitive limitations, and time constraints. So perfect rationality, I'm first talking about this first topic of your first techniques, that is called perfect rationality. Before discussing in length, let me tell you the crux part first, so that you can understand this rationality model. What this rationality model is based on the presumptions that the decision maker always takes perfect decision. I've just talked about the steps of the decision making. There are 7 steps of the decision making process, right? And let me again remind you about the steps in brief, only shortly, and the important steps. We said you decide, you have a goal, right? For achieving that goal, you gather all the informations. So what I'm presuming in the perfectly rationality decision model is that a decision maker is able to gather all the informations that are there for taking that decision. You deliberate on it with no time constraints. You deliberate on it fully. You are presuming that you are taking a perfect decision, and by gathering all the information, all the possible informations, then you evaluate these different alternatives, and you take best decision that is there in that for that goal, for that information. So it means it is being presumed that decision maker always takes perfect decision. That's why we call it perfect rationality. That is, this model of decision making presumes, I would say, that decision making is always perfect. You take right decision because you have all the informations which are possible for taking that decision, and it's like you're taking a perfect decision. But this bounded rationality model says, in practical life, you are not perfect, in the sense neither your information is complete, nor you have the perfect expertise of analyzing these informations, and you take decision in a given situation in a given circumstances, and on the basis of knowledge, on the basis of your experience, and on the basis of the limited information. I'm not saying all the information. I'm talking of bounded rationality now, the other model. On the basis of limited information which you could gather, right? Which you can get from different experts or from your own experience. On the basis of that, you take the decision. It means you are taking optimum decision in a given situation. That is called bounded rationality. I'm again repeating what I've said. I said there are two models, perfect rationality model and the bounded rationality model, bounded rationality decision making model. In the perfect rationality model, it is being presumed that a decision maker is able to gather all the information that are available or that can be available for taking the decision, and in a very scientific manner, you analyze them and takes the decision that is perfect. On the other hand, in the bounded rationality, it is being presumed that human beings are not perfect and the information which they can gather is also limited. You have limited time, you have limited energy, you have limited experience, and you have limited your money. And on the basis of that, you are able to gather the information which are best possible under that circumstances. And on the basis of those limited information, you take that decision, which are optimum in your situation, which are optimum in that situation. That is basically the bounded rationality. So these are the two models of the decision making. Now let me talk in detail about these models. First is perfect rationality model. So a decision strategy that is fully informed, perfectly logical, and geared towards maximum economic gain. That is, you're able to get all the informations, right, which is perfectly logical, and you take that decision which gives you the maximum economic gain, maximum profit. So rational decision making is a multi-step process of making choices between alternatives as you take in the decision making. The process of rational decision making favors logic, objectivity, means there is no element of subjectivity in decision making process. You are taking the decision on a basis of logic, not subjectivity, on the basis of objectivity, and analyze over subjectivity and insight, right? What my hunch is, मुझे क्या लगता है, मेरे हिसाब से क्या ठीक है, ये बात नहीं करनी. बात क्या करनी है कि लॉजिक क्या कहता है, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी क्या कहती है, right? So you take decision on the basis of logic and objectivity and analysis. The idea of rational choice is easy to see in economic theory. For example, most people want to get the most useful products at the lowest price. What do you want? That you want the best product you should get at the lowest possible price. Because of this, they will judge the benefits of a certain object, means how attractive the product is, right? As compared to the other objects, other products. They will then compare prices means cost. So in general, people will choose the object that provides the greatest reward at the lowest cost. So which product or service you will choose, which give you maximum benefit and you have to spend minimum money, right? So perfect rationality assumes, as I've said in the beginning itself, an individual has full and perfect information on which a choice is based, right? Means it has perfect knowledge. It has said perfect rationality model presumes that individuals have all the information, they have perfect information on the basis of which their choice is based, right? So measurable criteria exist for which data can be collected and analyzed. That is, no subjectivity. Measurable criteria is obvious. Like in the investment decision example which I gave, I said that bank FD will give you 3% return, right? Post office deposit will give you 4% return. Say bonds will give you 6% rate of interest, right? Stock market will, you presume, right? Measurable is 7 to 8% return on the basis of your past experience, you judge it, right? So these are the gold will give you this much return, real estate will give you this much. We should presume that measurable criteria exist. An individual has cognitive ability, time, and resources to evaluate each alternate against others. That is, you have enough time and resources that so that you can evaluate all the different options before you and you take the best decision. So rational decision making model does not consider factors that cannot be quantified, such as ethical concern or the value of the altruism, right? So what the society will think, what people will think, what are my value system, it is not being considered. What you take this on the basis of objectivity. It leaves out consideration of personal feelings, right? It doesn't take into account personal feeling, loyalties, or sense of obligation. Its objective, its objectivity creates a bias toward the preference for facts, data, and analysis over intuition or desires. This last line is important, friends, right? Means your decision making is based on facts, data, and analysis. Analysis means analysis of the data. Means it does not take into account your intuitions, what you think is the right this thing, right? Or your desires. आप क्या चाहते हैं ये इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, आपका दिल क्या कहता है ये इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. इंपॉर्टेंट है कि फैक्ट्स क्या है, डेटा क्या है, और उसके डेटा को एनालाइज करके आप डिसीजन लेते हैं, राइट? सो दिस इज अबाउट योर this rationality model. So choosing rationality is often characterized by the followings, right? So I'm not talking of this thing because now I'm talking of there is one more model that is left. I will talk of this bounded rationality, right? So very quickly, let me share this bounded rationality. Herbert Simon in the 1960 to 2001, right? He is a very famous for what is known as economics as a theory of bounded rationality. See, again, before talking in detail of this model, let me again discuss where I started when I was talking about when I started my discussion on two models: perfect rationality model and the bounded rationality model. The bounded rationality model says that there are various limitations of the perfect rationality model, because every individual, every decision making, every manager has limited knowledge. On the base of that knowledge, he will gather or she will gather the information. It means there is information limitations. There is time limitations. Means you have to decide within a given time. You cannot keep on exploring the things, right? So more time you take, more things you can explore, but you have limited time. You have limited expertise. You have limited scientific knowledge, right? You have limited resources. Your resources are limited. A decision can be a very good decision, but that requires more money, that requires more resources. You have limited technological know-how in an organization. So technology is limited. So there are, a decision maker is always bounded by, आप बंधे हुए हैं बहुत सारी कमियों से. So decision maker always takes decision keeping in mind these constraints under which you take the decision, right? So it always stays satisfying decision. Satisfying decision means Herbert Simon says, and Herbert Simon's received Nobel Prize for this concept of bounded rationality. He says it is a satisfying decision which a decision maker take. Satisfying means there are two words: satisfy and suffice. Means which will reasonably satisfy you, which will sufficiently serve your goal or serve your object. So in the practical life, decision makers takes satisfying decision. So Simon stated that individuals do not seek to maximize their benefit from a particular course of action. Not only they get access to all the information required, but even if they could, their mind would be unable to process it properly, right? So humans, for example, when you are in a shopping mode, aspire to something that they find acceptable, although they may not be necessarily be optimal. Say, let me give you a very simple example. You want to buy something. You want to buy something which you normally consume in a day-to-day life, right? You know it that from your local market, if you're buying it, you're paying something more. if you go to the wholesale market, which is 10 kilometers from your home or 5 kilometers from your home, because of the time constraints, because of the other constraints, means it will take time in going to that area, right? You prefer to buy from the local market. Means you're not taking a perfect decision. You are taking decision under the situation that you buy the things you require. The guests are with you, and guests are there at your home. You want to buy some snacks for them, and so you will go immediately to the nearby shop and you will buy the snacks for the guests. So the decision which you are taking is not the optimal decision. Optimal under the given situation, it is optimal. That is, you're buying from the local market, whatever is available, right? You go to the shop and buy, knowing but best, knowing it that you can buy this product at a cheaper rate 3 kilometers down the line from your home and better quality product, but you prefer to buy it because you need it quickly. The guest will not going to sit for 10 hours, 2-3 hours. Guest has come for only half an hour, 30 minutes or to an hour, right? So you take optimal decision. So humans, for example, when in shopping mode, aspire to something that they find acceptable, although that may not be necessarily be the optimal. They look through things in sequence, and when they come across an item that meets the aspiration level, they go for it. This real world behavior is Simon called satisficing. So friends, I have talked about these two models quickly. In my next class also, I will repeat these things, right, in brief, and then I'll come to the other part of your last part, techniques of decision making. So for today, thank you very much.